What is up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It's another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarych. Apologies for the brief delay. We were having some technical issues, but it allowed us to have two surprise guests joining us today. And we got a very exciting day ahead of us here, talking some friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It is a week filled with live shows. We are talking your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man today. We're talking Daredevil Born Again tomorrow. We'll have the Comic Corner on Thursday, pending our tech issues work out here. We'll have a Severance podcast on Friday, breaking down episode 2 of season 2. We will be live all week long. That's why you want to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when all of our shows go live. First up, going to our guests first here, stepping in at the last minute. Thank you so much for joining us, Richard Nebens. How you doing today?
Doing great. Good to see you guys, TJ, everybody. We're getting into a fun time of the year. We're finally getting some new content, and my first new thing to check out before my vacation starts next week. So I'm very, very excited about everything going on.
As Ryan, our own co-owner here at Agents of Fandom, head of the social team, absolute wizard of all things, mentions in the YouTube chat that we will get to do a bit of a live reaction to some exciting breaking news that I'm hoping people haven't actually seen yet that are on the podcast, and we get to get the live actual breaking news reaction. I'm most excited to talk about this with our next guest, Klein, who is, of course, co-host of a Star Wars podcast in addition to Controller Club and his work over at The Direct. How you doing, Klein?
I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm coming in hot and fast, but I'm excited to be here. Always a pleasure to join you guys here at the AOF crew. What's this headline? What are you talking about? What's going on, TJ? I think I know, but I want to hear it.
It's a pretty darn cool one, and so I'm excited to break into it. But before we do, I gave my co-host a little time to decompress, to have some deep breaths, as he had a stressful attempt of logging in, tech issues, mic issues, camera issues, but he's here. He moved the stars and the skies and the seas to make it happen. Damon Gray, welcome.
I'm fine. I'm great. 2025, baby. Smiles.
The dog meme with everything on fire. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Everything is fine. Well, hopefully I can perk up your day a little bit here, Damon, because we got some really fun and unexpected news. And it's coming from the Hollywood Reporter. And we know that Shawn Levy has an upcoming Star Wars film. We don't necessarily know what it is for sure, but we know Shawn Levy's working on a Star Wars film. Shawn Levy, of course, the creator of, the director and writer of Deadpool and Wolverine. Well, it's that Ryan Gosling is in talks to star in Shawn Levy's next movie. He's become one of my favorite actors over the last couple of years. Klein, I want to throw it to you for your reaction first. You are a Star Wars guy, and I know you like some Ryan Gosling.
I love Ryan Gosling. I go back to Ryan Gosling. I mean, fellow Canadian shout out, but me and Ryan Gosling go way back. I remember sitting in my basement seeing Drive for the first time when I was in like middle school and thinking like, man, like this is cinema. I was that kid with the scorpion jacket thinking nothing's ever going to get cooler than this. This is interesting to me. I think that Ryan Gosling has been on a bit of a cool career path as of late. I liked maybe a few years ago when he was doing the weird stuff, when he was in stuff like Drive and Place Beyond the Pines and things like that. But in the last few years, he has gone like very, very mainstream. I'd say the last kind of like auteur-driven thing that he did was La La Land, almost a decade ago at this point. But you look at Barbie, look at Hitman, and now the dude's gonna seemingly star in a freaking Star Wars movie. I think that's awesome. I think it could be a lot of fun. This movie just got a whole lot sexier, let me tell you that. And it's cool that he seems to still have this relationship with Disney, because you might remember, I'm pretty sure like he was cast in Thunderbolts and in that Oh no, that was Steven Yeun. No, I am wrong. He has been in talks with Marvel Studios a few times over the years. I'm just like, I think it's cool that he's gonna do like one of the big two, like one of the big franchises. And what is he? It like I can see him playing a like Harrison Ford scoundrel kind of thing. Is he a Jedi? What does this movie even look like? I'm excited to see where this goes. I think this means that we probably get filming information soon. Like they're probably going to go into production. I think the rumor is by the end of the year. That's cool. It's just nice as a Star Wars fan, as somebody who hosts a Star Wars podcast each and every week. It's nice that stuff is like actually moving. It seems like this movie is actually going to happen instead of one of these, oh shoot, here we go, another project, and then a couple months later it's gone.
Rich, did you hear this news before? Ryan bringing up in chat that he was rumored to play Kylo Ren way back in the day before the sequel series. And so he's been maybe wanting to pop into some Star Wars for a while. And now we get Ryan Gosling in potentially, still rumored, not signed on, nothing like that, but in talks to be part of this next movie.
So this is just classic me. I heard about it about 10 seconds before you brought it up on air because it was assigned to us as an article for the direct. So I am literally going to be in the process of writing it up as we go along. I'm going to be, multitasking the hell out of this. But I mean, hey, Ryan Gosling and the guy who directed Deadpool and Wolverine are doing a Star Wars project together. What a headline. I'm so excited for this. I don't know who's going to play, but knowing Ryan Gosling and knowing what he's capable of, like you said, from the indie stuff to Ken and Barbie, this is going to be a really, really fun movie already. And we have no idea what it's about. So I'm excited. I can't wait to see what happens.
And Damon, how about you? I know you're not one to theorize on what this could be, who he could be playing, nothing like that, but did coming in stressed, did this perk you up a little bit?
I'm just Glub, baby. Glub Shido, the movie starring Ryan Gosling. Let's do it. Let's make this thing. Let's put it in action.
Or
sure.
is he adult Grogu? Let's get that one out in there.
No, Klein, I'm more surprised that you didn't think like let's make him into like another Wolfman type of scenario.
Oh, sure. Really. Yeah. I like that.
There you go.
Not me.
I feel like that's right
a podcast with Rachel Leishman, and she immediately brings up how hot the Wolfman was in Skeleton Crew, and I went, no, not another one.
Two of them.
Not another one as part of the crew with Klein, but check out, of course, my Severance breakdowns every Friday with Rachel Leishman here on the Agents Fandom podcast. You can get it on the podcast feed. Make sure you're subscribed. Get on the YouTube page. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're not here to talk about Star Wars today. We are here to talk about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We are officially 1 week away from this debuting on Disney Plus, and this is a brand new look at Spider-Man. The first question, and this is where I get to be a little bit more useful because I'm throwing it to Damon for the comic book characters, but I get to answer the first few questions about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And first up, that's what a lot of people are going to ask going into this is this set in the MCU? The answer is no, not the main sacred timeline. It is in the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse, but not the main universe timeline. This is essentially a big, drawn-out what-if scenario for Spider-Man that it's, a similar version to what we have in the MCU, but it is not the exact same character. And the biggest twist in your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is the what-if is essentially, what if Norman Osborn was Peter Parker's mentor as opposed to Tony Stark in the MCU. It's a very exciting premise. I love any Spider-Man content I could possibly get because that's the superhero I was raised on. That's the superhero that made me fall in love with all of these different characters. And I can't wait for this show to come out and for everybody to see it. Klein, what do you think of the premise for this show? Would you prefer it be in the MCU and pre what we've seen of Tom Holland's character, or would you prefer it be separated?
Well, TJ, isn't everything technically in the MCU now? It's all this is as much an MCU story as Fantastic Four is going to be, because that's in another universe as well. I'm excited about the idea of this series. I think it's going to be cool to see this, like, I kind of what could have been with the MCU Spider-Man, even though it's not really technically Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I do, every time I look at this show, I do wish that it was freshman year. I wish it was that origin story that we never got to see for the mainline MCU Spidey, but I think it's going to be cool, just because this is in some other, like, technical reality doesn't mean ideas from it can't make their way over to the MCU at some point. I would be interested to see, like, if they can take some of these things, like a Norman Osborn, like some of these characters, and introduce them in their own way, like have this serve as kind of a bit of a appetizer to something bigger coming down the line in the MCU. But I think it's going to be fun. I don't know if it's going to have these kind of earth-shattering consequences that maybe some people would like it to have, but more Spider-Man is good in my book.
Colman Domingo steps in as Norman Osborn, and that's a character a lot of people are very excited to see. Rich, what do you think about the Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man concept that we're getting here with this show?
It's definitely interesting. I mean, like Klein said, I kind of wish we could have gotten, the official Tom Holland, Peter Parker backstory. I mean, it's kind of the only thing really missing from his origin story. Not like he didn't have his origin story over the 3 main Spider-Man movies, but we never got the, spider bite with great power, great responsibility, blah, 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 blah. But I'm excited to see it anyway. I'm really excited to see, like, what Marvel does, because this is Marvel Studios' first time really taking on the Spider-Man origin story. Obviously, we saw it with Maguire and Garfield, and it gets to explore, like, the Spider-Man world with all of these super classic, Spider-Man characters. Like we said, we've got Colman Domingo playing Norman Osborn, which should be a lot of fun. Tombstone's in it. We got some runaways in there with Nico Minoru, if I'm not mistaken. It should be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing this animation style too, because it's different than anything we've gotten before. It's different from X-Men 97, and it's different from What If. So it's cool to see Marvel kind of branching out into, like, a different variety of animation styles and different projects and stuff like that. It should be a lot of fun.
Damon, I want your thoughts on the concept of what this show is as well, but also talk to me about the unique art style that is in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, because we've seen concept art for a long time. We have seen clips and trailers, teasers for this show, and it is a very unique animation, but also a very unique art style that's taken straight from the comics.
Yeah, sure. The art style is, a lot of people have been saying, like, oh, it's very old school Ditko. It's literally Leo Romero, who's done many comics, including this Kate Bishop comic right behind me. He's done Fabulous Killjoys with Gerard Way. He did Birds of Prey with Kelly Thompson as well. He's been in the comic space for a long time. This is literally his art style. Yes, it's a retro, nostalgic look that also has to do with the colors a lot. But the art style, he is one of the lead art directors of the show in terms of the style. Now, the animation itself, that's a whole different can of worms, because the stills and the concept arts that we've seen of it isn't exactly what the show looks like because of the animation style. I'm probably going to be the one person here that is in favor of this being in a different universe for this Spider-Man origin story, and that's strictly because, going back to an interview Brian Witterbaum did, which is him saying, well, if we contained it to our MCU, quote-unquote, 616, it's so limiting what you could do with his first year. I mean, obviously, he can't have, like, his classic Spider-Man suit. He has to have the goggles on all the time. You can't use any of his, like, Sinister Six villains at all in any way, shape, or form. There can't be any Osborns. And then you're just limiting it to things that we've already seen, right? It would have to also be pre-Civil War as well. Like, it's so limited to what the story could be if it was totally 616 canon. So I'm actually in favor of them doing this, because now you can go crazy. And this show has shown, at least in, like, the concept art and the trailer, that they're willing to go a little wild with some of these character pulls. Nico Minoru, as you mentioned, Pearl Pangan, who's Wave, Amadeus Cho. We're able to pull some names here that, like, mainline Marvel fans in terms of like TV movie fans don't know, and I am so in favor of that. I love the art style. We'll see about the animation itself, like once when I actually see it in long format, but I'm really excited for it.
As we go through some of these character breakdowns, I'm going to try and be quite vague and not give too much of my own opinion, as I have seen it already and I'm not allowed to talk about it yet. And so I'm talking about it as if I haven't seen it, and so therefore I am just going to be like the interviewer as we go. So it really worked out as the best case scenario that it turned out to be a last minute 4-person show here, because that means I gotta say even less than I did before. But the first thing I want to bring up, I'm going to skip ahead in the rundown a little bit, because as our chat's is excited about, Ryan says in all capital letters, Pearl Pangan screen debut. This is a character that we've seen in Marvel Snap, and of course a comic book character as well, a member of the Agents of Atlas. But Damon, I will let you dive into who this character is. We have seen her in the concept art. She's going to be going to school with Peter. We don't know who she is in the series.
Yeah.
We do know who she is in comics. Who is Pearl Pangan?
Pearl Pangan is Wave. And if you don't know me, hi, my name is Damon, and I love Avatar The Last Airbender. Why do I love Avatar The Last Airbender? Because I love my element benders, and she's one of several element benders on the Agents of Atlas. What has she been, TJ? Water. She's our water bender. That's kind of her whole bit. She was thrown into a science experiment that kind of went terribly wrong, but also terribly right. She was a swimmer at a very high level, and bing, bang, boom. Now you essentially got a hydrokinetic Polynesian princess who's just so cool. Right? She was in the New Agents of Atlas, and we haven't really seen her too much outside of that. A lot of people are like, oh, does she have to do anything with Atlantis? Really? Not really. She kind of had like a little bit of a butting heads with Namor, because Namor's like, yo, girl, you should kind of be like on our side here. And she's like, nah, I got friends. Screw you, Namor. So that's kind of like their whole thing. She's a cool character. She's headstrong. She's pretty level-headed at the same time, but I really like her. She cares for her community. She's one of my favorite Agents of Atlas characters. And whether or not we actually see her as Wave in this show is another question. I hope we do, because, like, again, I like my waterbenders. That's cool. But Pearl as a character as a whole, she's cool.
Klein, do you have any familiarity with the character of Pearl Pangan or Wave? And feel free to talk to us about anything you know about her, or if not, lead us into another one of the characters on the list that you may want to talk about, what they may be doing in this show.
Well, I'm not super duper familiar with Wave or Arrow or any of these kind of comic based characters, but I think that what's exciting to me is where I'll transition is, I mentioned Norman Osborn at the top and how excited I am to see what Marvel Studios does with that character. We haven't seen them touch that character before. I'm just excited to see Marvel Studios as a whole with this show, like, touch characters that, yeah, there are some that are super familiar to me, like Norman Osborn. But then there are a few others where it's like, oh, like, I don't know who that is. And this team at Marvel Studios has done, for the most part, a pretty great job over the years of introducing me to characters that I've never heard of. I'd never read an Eternals comic before I saw that movie, and I came out going like, I love Makari. I love the character. I love these different people that I'd never met before. And so I think that to me is like what's very exciting. This is obviously going to be the first time in a Marvel Studios project that we get the iconic crossing over of Spider-Man and Daredevil, because sure, like, Charlie Cox is there. What's he going to actually be doing? Is he going to suit up? We don't really know, but like, I think that's going to be really cool potential table setting for what we could get like in a full-on big screen Spider-Man 4 or Secret Wars, something down the line. But this is going to, as I said, like, be like a really good, just like, hey, here's a bit of a sample of what we could potentially get. And so for me, like, I think number one is seeing Daredevil on screen with Spider-Man, because I love both those characters. I love when they cross paths in. I'm an Ultimate Spider-Man guy from back in the early 2000s. I love the stories between the two of them in those runs. So like, I think that's going to be really exciting. And then, yeah, like Colman Domingo as Norman is just going to be, I think, just so much fun. Like he's such a great actor. And the fact that they're bringing him in here, you look at the names, like going down the cast list, like he is easily, I think, the biggest name on there. And so they've got plans for him some way, somehow. I hope this doesn't count him out of being in the MCU proper some point down the line. But I think that he's going to be like a lot of fun. And what does Harry look like here? Are we going to get that? They're opening a Pandora's box of smaller characters like Wave and things like that, as well as these big names like Norman Osborn and Daredevil.
Rich, jump in with any of these three characters that you like. Primarily, ever since this announcement, I've been so excited to see Charlie Cox in this series, because one of my favorite pieces of Spider-Man media ever is the Spider-Man the Animated Series from the 90s, where he teams up with Daredevil. Daredevil's trying to clear the name of Peter Parker, who's being framed by Wilson Fisk, and they fight before they realize they're on the same side. It's incredible. Can't wait to see these two together.
Yeah, I mean, having Charlie Cox in this series is going to be, it's one of the things MCU fans have dreamed of for a while, is seeing Daredevil and Spider-Man in the same series together. And I want to point out something real quickly that you said, Klein, about, being worried that Colman Domingo might not have a chance at a future MCU role. I am in the middle of my giant Netflix rewatch for Daredevil, and I'm in Punisher season 1, which includes a guy by the name of Evan Moss Bacharach, who not only was in Punisher, but is going to be in Fantastic Four as the Thing later this year. So if that is any indication, then I think Colman Domingo still has a great chance of hopefully potentially playing a bigger MCU role. And we know that everybody was saying that they were talking to him about possibly taking over for Kang when that whole thing goes around. So I don't know if the Kang thing is going to work out, but I do hope to see Colman Domingo in the live action MCU. And the thing about the Daredevil Spider-Man thing that it gets, me personally closer to, being a fan of another character who wears primarily red, is we're finally getting close to the Marvel Red Team finally, teaming up together in the MCU, the trio of like Spider-Man, Daredevil, and hopefully one day Deadpool. It's just these
Wouldn't
crazy...
that be such a good Marvel holiday special?
Oh,
if
God.
They did like a Team Red versus Team Green, and it was like
yes.
Loki, Hela, and these way overpowered people, and Hulk. Loki, Hela, and Hulk against Spider-Man, Deadpool, and Wolverine, and they're just like hilariously overmatched. And I don't know what the plot would be, but it would just be fantastic. It would be hilarious.
It just describes Secret Wars. Let's just do this.
It ends in a foosball match. Remember the foosball thing from, I think it was one of the last episodes of What If? It just turns into a foosball match between the six of them.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter what they're doing.
Deadpool's involved. That's
together, and they have an absolute blast. Damon, what would be your dream scenario of how we get Charlie Cox's either Matt Murdock or Daredevil in this show?
I think it'd be nice if, look, let's go back to an episode we had about Spider-Man and our dream Spider-Man movie. That's definitely obviously not going to happen because the world doesn't like us. And that is our very ground street level Daredevil movie where he's taking down Wilson Fisk and maybe Spider-Man helps him out. And some other street level heroes come in, and there ends up being like a bigger mafia crime boss level like gap they're trying to fill in. That would be nice if all of a sudden like Kingpin, who I'm pretty sure has been, I'm pretty sure it was announced that Vincent D'Onofrio was coming back as Kingpin in the show alongside Charlie Cox's Daredevil. So it would be really cool and nice if like there was one episode that was dedicated to taking down a crime boss or something along the lines of that. That would be nice. I would like that.
There are a few returning people that we have seen before. We're getting Hudson Thames back as Peter Parker. Hudson, of course, voices him in What If. And he's there's this conglomerate of Peter Parker voice actors, Yuri Lowenthal, Josh Keaton, Hudson Thames, that anytime it's one of them, I just know that they're going to do a really good job. They've all kind of shown that throughout the different Spider-Man medias that they pop up in, they all do a really good Peter Parker and a really good Spider-Man. The next one I want to talk about Damon is because this is kind of included as one of the high school characters, like Pearl Pangan, is Lonnie Lincoln. Who the heck is Lonnie Lincoln in Spider-Man lore?
Why, that is good old Tombstone, everybody. Wow, what a twist. He's going to be best friends, maybe friends, I don't know, with one of his villains. And I kind of want to go back to just what makes the only good Spider-Man comic right now good. And that is just like the twists on Spider-Man lore. It's the same thing, and I'm talking about Ultimate Spider-Man, by the way, not the Amazing Spider-Man or anything. I'm talking about Ultimate Spider-Man, the good Spider-Man book, because that's what's making it good. We're putting twists on Spider-Man lore. Same thing with Absolute Batman. In the Absolute book, Batman is actually best friends with almost his entire rogues gallery as a kid. They were all best friends, and they still remain best friends. And the reason those are loved right now is because, yes, it is a brand new, fresh take on that story. And that's why I'm really fascinated to see what this whole Lonnie thing, like, are we going to twist it? Is it going to be that whole, oh, he goes bad in the end? Or because this is a fresh slate, because this is another universe, does he even become Tombstone? Who knows? Maybe that has a secondary aspect to it.
Other people that we are expected to come in contact with, we have Bentley Whitman, aka the Wizard in comics. We have
what a pull.
Amadeus Cho. I mean, I bring up the Wizard specifically because Klein said he's an Ultimate Spider-Man guy, and they fight the Wizard and the Beetle, and there's a full crew of people that are kind of like recurring villains. Batroc the Leaper, and that like pop up every now and then. Wizard's one of them, but we got Amadeus Cho who's gonna pop up. Some characters that I don't know as much about, like Jean Foucault and Asha, someone coming in from Wakanda. Damon, I'll throw it to you again to highlight any important comic pieces, but then I want to get Rich and Klein to say, like, who of those characters kind of stands out that's somebody you're excited to see. Because Damon, Asha is, I was looking up the names that were included as part of the announcement or in the art, and she is somebody that appears from comics with some superpowers. Jean is somebody who appears in comics, and Amadeus is one of those that we know a little bit more about. Amadeus Cho, of course, becomes a Hulk. He's one of the smartest people in the world. We have seen his mom already in Avengers Age of Ultron. And we also wrote up an exclusive article with our friend Zui Nguyen, who is in the Sympathizer, who brought up how he would maybe like to play Amadeus in some iteration in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So any of those characters stand out that you want to bring up their some comic lore behind them?
Yeah, Jean is funny because when you throw Jean as a name, you're like, does this name mean anything? I'm like, no. Quick Google search. I'm like, oh my God, she was in Avengers Academy, and I totally have that book behind me. And I've read it, and I'm like, whoa, that was a long time ago, everybody. I do not remember her at all. But she has a fun little twist in there that if they play into the show, going unspoiled, because that's kind of like a fun little aspect. Amadeus Cho, though, is obviously the standout of the names that you gave me, because Amadeus is like the 8th smartest human alive in Marvel. He becomes Brawn in the end, and the totally awesome Hulk, but we're sticking with Brawn. And he became really, like, he really came into the form in the Agents of Atlas, the new Agents of Atlas, with Pearl, with Arrow, with Luna Snow, for all you Marvel Rivals fans. He's a pretty cool Hulk. And again, it took him a while to actually get to that. He was Amadeus just as like a smart kid for a long time. And that's what I expect him to be in this show. If they bring a Hulk into this show too, and like, it's not just it, because that's also part of the thing. We now have, like, potentially, right, a metahuman who is a waterbender, hydrokinetic, a potential Hulk, a potential magic user that I'm sure we'll talk about soon enough. That is a lot of power around Spider-Man. Will they actually, like, be those characters, or is it just kind of like the name? That's what I'm interested in.
Klein, throw it to you first. Who of those characters stands out the most to you? Because Amadeus Cho, it's another one of those guys that was prevalent in Ultimate Spider-Man because he became Iron Spider in that show.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see what Amadeus Cho does in this series, just because it is like there's for where we started with the show when they first pitched it, it sounded like a little bit more grounded. It sounded like, hey, it's going to be this recounting the origins of this Spider-Man. And when you are bringing in, there's so many characters here. You're bringing in a Hulk essentially in Amadeus. You're bringing in characters from Wakanda. You're bringing potential magic users. You bring all these different, like it does feel like a weird, like little mini. I don't want to call them B and C tier, but like B and C tier Avengers TV show is what it's turning into, which I think is like, that's interesting. That's a completely different slant than I thought they were going to go with when they pitched this show as this kind of origins with these different villains and that sort of thing. So I think that, yeah, I think Amadeus to me is like, he's the biggest name on the list when you're getting down to that cast list for sure. I'm very interested to see what Asha does, just because like the Spider-Man and Wakanda, like those spheres rarely cross, especially on screen. And so I'm fascinated to see like, what does that look like? What does that mean? Why is she here? What is she doing? Is she friend? Is she foe? That to me is like really piques my interest as a Spidey fan.
Rich, how about you?
Yeah, I can touch on both of those, both the Asha and of course Amadeus show. I was thinking back to like what Klein was mentioning, the Wakanda or Black Panther Spider-Man stuff. Even in the live action movies, we basically saw like no interaction between Peter Parker and T'Challa or Shuri or anybody like that, even though Black Panther and Spider-Man were on the same team in Captain America Civil War. Like they really didn't interact with each other basically at all. And then it's pretty much stayed the same since then. So I'm really looking forward to seeing, especially because, Peter Parker and, the people from Wakanda are some of the smartest people in the world. We've been wanting to see that for a while. And then, of course, Amadeus Cho, he's been talked about as possibly coming into the MCU for a while. Like you're mentioning, we got Helen Cho in Avengers Age of Ultron. He becomes Hulkling. I'm looking forward to seeing like if it has any potential Young Avengers ties, because we've been talking about that for years with all the live action MCU Young Avengers characters. Obviously we've got Cassie and America Chavez and Miss Marvel and all those guys. So it just gets us a little more anxious to see what they could do with the Young Avengers in the live action MCU and how they could maybe kind of set it up, tease it, and go from there. So I'm really looking forward to both of them. And I mean, it should be a really cool like conglomerate of characters all together that we haven't seen before.
So when Damon's messaging me before the show that he's having some technical difficulties, I went into Nick Fury mode, and I said, like, I need some people with some special abilities. I need them now. I got an emergency. We got to come together and stand up for something here. And shout out to one more member of the team coming in to help us break down your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. I was hoping I could get one. I ended up getting everybody I called for. Aaron Perine, welcome to the show.
It's a Phase Hero in the house.
We got Phase Hero in the house. You're currently muted, Aaron. You're currently muted. But Phase Hero in the house, Aaron Perine joining us to talk about your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We'll throw it to you here, Aaron, for this one. We're talking about all these new characters we're getting as part of Spidey's Circle in this series with Amadeus Cho, and we got Pearl Pangan, and we have yet to talk about Nico Minoru, but we're getting to that next as well. Lonnie Lincoln. What do you think of this new group of cast members coming to join Peter's story that we haven't necessarily seen him interact with a ton before?
Oh, you're still muted.
There we go.
There we go.
Let's see. I really am excited to see Peter have friends again. As you know, Spider-Man has no friends in the MCU. No one knows who he is. But this Peter actually has a large cast of characters, and like one that feels a lot like the early Ditko and stuff run, where it just has a bunch of friends. There's a bunch of people around. Like I cannot tell you, being in the room for the animation presentation at D23, how loud a cheer went up in the room when Nico was the one to pop up in the trailer, and everybody's like, "Wait, what? Runaways? Like, what do you mean?" And I'm like, Jeff and them have something truly, truly fun planned. All of your random Marvel side characters that our Peter never really got to meet are all going to be here. It's really fun. And hopefully, Powers and all the other fun stuff too. Because I mean, some of these characters, like Lonnie and them, I'm like, they probably only got mentioned as like nice reference things in the Raimi trilogy, right? Or if that.
I don't even think he was mentioned in the Raimi ones.
Okay, like because I know that there's like they pepper in like Robbie and other fun people all throughout, but they're all like just background characters. It's going to be so much different to have all of them play a role in Peter's life and be like, people he talks to and sees every day and influences everything. And of course, I just hearing Colman deliver anything is going to be so wild. The dynamic of Peter having a mentor, yet another mentor figure, but this time, like, not exactly the greatest guy, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. You can't. It reminds me of like watching Far From Home and Mysterio for half the movie being somewhat reasonable, and then when it happens, me going, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can't trust him. Fishbowl Man's bad. Can't trust him. Can't trust him."
I remember sitting in the theater just like waiting for my friends to have who are with me who have no idea who Quentin Beck or Mysterio is, just like knowing there's gotta be some inevitable twist happening. As soon as it happened, I just was looking at them and they were like, yes, this is exactly what I hope for. And we maybe get something like that with Colman Domingo's Norman Osborn, because as we've seen from plenty of Norman Osborn through the years, we can't trust that man. No matter how nice he is to Peter at times, we can't always trust that man. But seeing Colman Domingo's name attached to Norman Osborn, Aaron, that got me a lot more excited to have the inclusion of this character in the show.
When he walked out the back, I was like, wait, really? Like, you're serious? Oh my God. All of us like immediately like sat forward in our chair like that gaming meme, like, uh-oh, all right, lock in, let's go. What's happening here? So it'll be a delight to see him probably get ready to fly somewhere along the line here. Probably.
I really like this theory from MTF in chat. What if these characters end up being Peter's college friends in Spider-Man 4? I think that would be super fun. The one that throws me off the most is Lonnie Lincoln, just because, I mean, Tombstone was Robbie Robertson's friend. There's a serious age difference in those characters typically. And so putting them together, I found pretty odd. But the one I think is most likely to maybe be some kind of college friend would be Nico Minoru. And I could see that being as a character we've seen in the Runaways, as a character that was an inclusion of Marvel's Midnight Suns video game. And she is really awesome in that as well. I always recommend people play that game, because even if you're not a fan of the typical like format that is that game, which is sort of like a card playing action game, as opposed to your typical first person or third person fighting game, the interactions between all the Marvel characters in it are super, super cool. Damon, who is Nico Minoru, and are you excited to see her in this show?
Oh my God, I'm so excited to see Nico Minoru in this show, man. She's so cool. She's like got this like staff essentially, right? She's a magic user. She's got a staff, and she only can use a spell once. One spell once. Use that spell once, it's gone forever. You got to come up with a new spell that kind of does the same thing, right? And her and her cast of Runaways, go watch the Runaways show if you kind of want a little bit of a TLDR on it. There's also a recent Runaways comic that ended about a year or two ago that's also pretty solid that she's in as well. But I'm so excited for her. She's a little bit sassy. She's a headstrong gal, and so powerful. She can almost do anything she wants, right? So that's where I'm like, I am curious, because so far in the promotional stuff we've seen, and also, do not forget, I don't think I've even mentioned this yet, there's a prequel comic that's come out for the show that I read the first issue of, and she doesn't have her staff yet. So she's just chilling. She's just Nico Minoru. She's chilling. She is a runaway, but she's just chilling.
And what we've seen from the early clips and the prequel comic, things like that, we see Nico is sort of Peter's Ned in this. She's like his high school bestie. And so, Klein, have you seen Runaways? And what's your Nico Minoru background here? Are you excited to see this character in the show?
I haven't seen Runaways, but you bring up Marvel's Midnight Suns, and I perk right up. That game rules. I think she's awesome in that game. I think some of the interactions you get with her are just like she's she kicks ass. Like, she rules, and I'm excited to see what she does in this series. I'm interested. Damon, you bring up that she doesn't have her staff yet. What's going to be interesting to see how they juggle it. And TJ, you can't. I'm not even gonna look at your eyes because I can't. I don't want to know. Is how, like, this is ultimately, like, not necessarily a Spider-Man origin story, but like there's elements of that there. But with all of these characters who we know become these superheroes of their own, and at least one of them, in Nico's case here, we know doesn't currently have, like, is not at the status where she eventually gets to, is like, how many superhero awakenings can we have in this small confined animated series? And so, like, that to me is going to be interesting balance of how they juggle that. How are they going to actually tackle telling Spider-Man's story in his first few adventures as Spider-Man, while also including all of these other characters from across the Marvel Universe, some of which become these big names that I don't think we're going to end the show with all of them being just those people. Like, I feel like by the end we will have some other superheroes on the board, and it's like that's a lot for a animated, however 9-episode like Spider-Man TV show to tackle.
10 episodes, and I got nothing. I closed my eyes when you were talking. I have no
I don't want to know. I don't want to
say
know.
Aaron had
I know
something to
you've
say.
seen Runaways, so I'll throw it right to you next. How excited are you for some Nico Minoru in this show? Do we get Rich? Oh, he's back. He's back.
Oh no! I actually have. I was gonna say, Runaways is one of the only things I have not seen yet. So I know it's that and it's Cloak and Dagger. That's it. So those are going on my list.
Cloak and Dagger.
I know. But no, as soon as I finish my my Netflix rewatch before Daredevil, and as soon as my vacation's over, I'm gonna get into those because I gotta get into those.
Rich, if you need another reason to go watch it, Renzi Felice, who's tremendous in Penguin, is one of the main characters in Runaways. Like,
Hey, say no more. Say no more.
it's good.
Aaron, what's your Nico background? Where did you see this character for the first time? And what do you hope most we get to see with her in the show?
So Sugar Heights Public Library had the entire run of Runaways, like in the graphic novel section. Other than, like, I don't know, it used to be in the northeast corner. Don't know where it is now. But I mean, for a kid with no money to go to the comic shop, spending all my money on Yu-Gi-Oh cards, it was absolutely indispensable to get.
Yeah.
at
Did you keep any of
least
them?
14, 15. No, also, that's how I'm a good egg. I try to not keep them so that somebody else could go, like, look at them. I hope they've expanded the comic section. I need to go back and look because I'm at home.
No, I meant the Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Do you still have any of the Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you were spending
got a
money
lot
on?
of
they're all in my
sitting
mama's
around, Aaron?
house. All that shit is my mom's house, man. Like, it's a lot of them too. It's a solid 300 to 400 cards.
What we got right here?
Trying to get Aaron in trouble at the public library, TJ. Come on.
No,
I
I
thought
got
I
the Yu-Gi-Oh
was like,
cards. I got some on deck. I'm ready.
oh god.
I got my holographic Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragons here. I'm ready to go. I got some.
Have those in penny sleeves. What are you doing?
We gotta play.
Damn. I'm sure I have the holographic Mew card from the Pokemon 2000 premiere somewhere.
Ancient View?
Oh yeah, that thing's gonna be worth $1 million
somewhere
someday.
But
Got Dark Magician Girl here beside me. We got Yamarugi here. We got look at this.
TJ's card is in the card.
Into the sewer like that clown. Like, why are you trying to drag me back into my life?
Let's do it. 2025, the year that we all get back into Yu-Gi-Oh. I think we need to make this happen.
Heck yeah, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely adore Yu-Gi-Oh! But sorry, Aaron, I cut you off. Back to the Runaways and to Nico.
Oh, yeah, I read everything until, like, that massive twist that happens at the end of, like, what I think of the first, like, big arc, the second big arc, which dramatically changes the team, which, if you're going to read it yourself, I do not want to divulge, but it involves Nico and it involves, like, the leader of their team. So it really was heavy, like, crazy for a high school age kid. You're like, wait, what do you mean? So there's a lot of pulpy stuff. There's a lot of fun sides of the Marvel Universe. One thing I always harp on when we talk about these kind of characters too is that these announcements and these weird rumors that happen around the MCU they're not timed randomly a lot of the time. And there's a project that has been rumored to be in development that involves Nico pretty substantially. So take that for what you will. It's funny that she popped up here, and then you get all these weird rumors. Like,
It's
I
coincidence,
am
Aaron.
excited.
It's
Huh?
coincidence. It's all it is.
So
It's just coincidence. Yep.
you know, it's not like Daddy Feige's just around the corner. Like, listen, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put the girl with the staff into the project, and then you're gonna back away slowly and let us do what we got to do over there and publish it. Okay. All right. Glad we had this talk.
You're gonna give us the magic girl.
Give me
Gonna
more
back
cool
away
magic
real
people.
slow-like.
Exactly. I
Wong's
love
got to
magic
have
stuff.
some other people. It can't just be America in a room just by herself.
It finally clicked with me what you're talking about.
Yeah.
With what project?
One of my favorite things, one of my favorite Marvel things that has come out over the last 6 years. Oh my Atlanta.
We need more, and this is, if you haven't clued into what project we're teasing, we need more magic users in the MCU because magic is cool as hell. And we don't know what the heck Strange and Clea are out there doing right now in the dark dimension. We don't know when we're gonna see them again.
Leave my boy alone. He's on his little dark dimension getaway with his goth girlfriend, okay? Just let him have his fun.
He's got his
I
new
want him
eye
to have
test
his
out.
fun. I just want to know. I want to see it. I want it to be on. And I mean this. I don't mean this in the way that it could be implied. I don't mean this in the way that it could be understood.
Let him enjoy his time.
He's got that third eye he's got to work out. So
I'd like to see it on my screen.
Yeah, they got to work on that eye.
Do you know how many? Do you know what's a random recurring dream that I have?
Okay, here we go.
In a movie theater, and it's usually because I'm like running away from somebody and I sneak into a movie theater and I'm watching trailers for something, but then they're like showing the wrong trailer, and I ends up seeing like all the footage of a Marvel movie they're making like a year and a half early, and they have like full-on plots and character appearances. So it's like it's wild because it's like all this shit is just hanging out in my brain somewhere. And I can remember some of them afterwards where it's like a full-on experience where I'm seeing all these characters interact with each other that haven't interacted in the MCU before. And,
TJ, are these premonitions? Like, have these come true is what I want to know. Do you have the plot of Spider-Man 4 knocking away up there and you don't even know?
It's always like cosmic stuff. It's
TJ,
it's always something in space. Usually it has something to do with like, oh my gosh, and like one that sticks out is like, am I watching a new Vision movie that isn't out yet? Like, I've never even heard of this announced, and I'm watching like a full-on Vision movie. And it was just like it was really weird with that, but that's almost a little bit what your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man feels like, of like a little bit of a fever dream of just like these Marvel characters thrown together with Nico with like as an idea. I mean, like that's not a reaction to it. That's just kind of when I see all these characters thrown together, it's like, I don't know what they're going to do, but it seems pretty fun. And I am really just on the train now of, Aaron planting the seeds that maybe we're going to get Nico in some kind of live action if they're teasing it for these reasons. And MTF bringing up in chat about these being college friends of Peter's in Spider-Man 4. Nico and Peter becoming friends in Spider-Man 4, and that's somehow like becoming a new connection once again to Doctor Strange, and getting that scene where like Peter sees Doctor Strange again. Doctor Strange doesn't know who the hell he is. That's exciting to me. That as a concept is really exciting to me. Aaron, who do you think I want from everybody? I'll go to you first, Aaron. Character you think is maybe an unannounced character you think is most likely to appear in this show as somebody that like slips in, and then who would be your hope, your dream, best case scenario? I would love it if we get them in this show.
Oh, God. And this could be anybody. This is not just Spider-Man related.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. So since we're so far away from the eventual live action like introduction of things, I really think it would be funny, like really interesting if they haven't talked about it, that the symbiote that he gets in this thing doesn't look like normal Venom. It looks very different. Very, very different. Very weird. But so that would be probably like a regular Eddie Brock from another like world would be very funny to me. Like to just drop him in there. He looks a lot like Tom Hardy.
Voiced
Maybe
by
it doesn't
Tom
sound
Hardy.
like Tom, but looks a lot like Tom Hardy. And for someone we just don't see like at all, like or just like didn't see coming, like being in this and being in this like in this show. Oh man, I love Spider-Verse so much. I really do enjoy like Spider-Verse so much. So any sort of Miles thing would be a trip where our poor boy gets thrown into another universe. And either it can be Miles, it can be any other animated Spider-Man would be hilarious. Like how funny would it be if half the internet was yelling about Spectacular Spider-Man for 3 years, and then he goes to the universe and like gets to talk to freaking Josh? It would be so funny. I'd be like, we wasted all our time, but why did we even do it? Like that GIF of Pedro Pascal laughing and crying and throwing paper everywhere. I'd be like, none of it matters. None of it matters at all. So either getting to talk to one of the other anime Spider-Mans or a Miles that we have not seen would be like a wish list thing for me.
You know, this I just was thinking about this throughout where we were talking about the holiday episode where we have Team Red versus Team Green, of the red characters versus the green characters. How great would this be if they decided to do a series of shorts, animated, live action, comic, and otherwise, as prep marketing for Secret Wars, where they just have like a Josh Keaton short where it's Spectacular Spider-Man, his Iron Man from Marvel Rivals, his Iron Man from Marvel Midnight Suns, his Captain America from What If, whatever it was he did that, and just put all of them in like a room and have them interacting with each other doing his different voices. Have all these different multiversal Battle World offshoot things that happen in prep for Secret Wars. That would be such a good way to market this movie. I think that would be something that would be really, really cool. Rich, who do you think will show up in your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? Who do you hope shows up in your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
I'm gonna take Deadpool off the board just because, I'm like the way people were excited. You all know how excited I was for Deadpool and Wolverine last year. The day they announce a Spider-Man and Deadpool team up, you will not hear anything else from me from the day that is announced until the day that comes out in theaters. But
another reason to plug Rich Klein's favorite show, Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes, another reason to plug Ultimate Spider-Man. I'm definitely with Aaron. I would love anything and everything to do with Miles Morales. I'm just excited to see any kind of interaction between him and Peter. I mean, as somebody who played the Spider-Man 2 game, actually all the Insomniac Spider-Man games pretty religiously for the last few years, I love all their interactions in there together. For someone I don't think we would necessarily expect, that's a tougher choice. I mean, I know we've got a ton of Spider-Man villains potentially out there, maybe like an Electro or like a version of Sandman or something. Because like I'm excited to see these characters that we haven't really seen in these before, like the Lonnie Lincolns of the world and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm kind of leaning more towards something like that. If I come up with anything later, I'll definitely chime in. But the Spider-Man villains and definitely of course Miles.
Klein, your life is on the line. A mugger is coming and they say, I'm going to do terrible things to you unless you can tell me a character that is going to appear in your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man that's not announced. But then after you get through this super terrible traumatic time, a genie or somebody who grants wishes comes to you and they say, hey, I am going to, because you went through this terrible time, I'm going to grant you this one wish. You get to pick a character to appear in your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Who is that character going to be?
So first of all, you're coming at me with the knife. I'm terrified. I think that this hasn't been announced, and they've kind of veered away from it since the kind of creative refresh. I think we see in some capacity Uncle Ben in this show. I think that we're going to get a Marvel Studios Uncle Ben in some form. It's probably going to be in a flashback. Who knows? I think we get that. The character I want, I don't know if I actually think this could happen as well, but I want to see a Marvel Studios Gwen And I think that if they are going to do some sort of like love interest or introduce that sort of element into Peter's life, I don't think it would happen early in the series, but I could see towards the end, maybe setting up a season 2, like we get a Gwen drop, and I would be very excited about that.
Damon, I got 2 ideas of who you're going to choose here. And I need you to not look at the private chat right now in StreamYard. Don't look at it, okay? I'm going to put for everybody else, or better yet, I'll do it in the YouTube chat. I'm going to do it in the YouTube chat so everybody can see it. But I don't want you to look.
Let me close that out. There you go. You're good.
And I'm going to put it in the YouTube chat, and my guess is of who you're going to choose. And if I'm right, you owe me a drink next time we see each other.
Oh, okay.
Done.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Done?
Yeah.
In 3, 2, 1. Screwball.
Yeah, let's
Joe,
go.
I'm kidding.
Screwball.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Give me Felicia Hardy. That's all I want.
1 for 1 so far. We got the Felicia Hardy one. I knew it was coming. We are 1 for 1. We've been clamoring for years, it feels like, needing a Black Cat in a Spider-Man movie proper. We get a little Felicia Hardy tease in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. We don't actually get our Black Cat, though. In Spider-Man 4, it feels like such a perfect time to do it.
TJ, the rumors are going today. Today, people are talking about that it may be coming. So
really,
yeah,
are they actually doing the movie that we made?
I'm gonna have to make sure I check out the newsletter from the direct that goes to my.
I did that. It's definitely not the newsletter yet, but
but I just the plug it fine. All right, Damon. Who is the character you hope appears above all else?
Okay, look. There is one shot. So there was this, I think it was from San Diego Comic-Con when they had like all these characters lined up right across the whole board. And I'm zooming in, I'm enhancing, and there's one literally dead smack in the middle that scares the crap out of me. Why? Okay, because we have a girl, with dark hair, red stripe on her hair, big purple jacket. And I'm sitting back and I'm like, good Lord. If they're giving me Ultimate Kate Bishop, I think I'm going to run away from everything as humanly possible. Because if that's true, I don't need Ultimate Kate Bishop. I'm going to be honest. Her whole thing, if anyone does not know, is that, dead smack, bang, right in the middle. You tell me,
okay,
it's a little Haley Steinfeld-y, especially with the red stripe in the hair. Now, I'm a little worried because her whole thing with Ultimate Kate Bishop is that her parents are Hydra. And she's kind of a little like, oh, I don't know, am I with my parents or am I not? And I'm like, it's Hydra. Can we not? I don't know. Whenever you Hydra is one of my favorite characters, it puts me off. But I'm hoping. We're in New York, baby. Anything's possible. They're right about the same age. It's New York.
I know my co-host pretty darn well. Felicia Hardy for the first one, Kate Bishop for the second one. Nailed it. You owe me a drink the next time.
It's almost like I have like a Black Cat and a Hawkeye collection. Like,
it's not like it's prominently plastered on the screen or anything.
Aaron, what are your hopes for this series? Do you have any worries going into it? And what do you think is like the secret sauce here? What's the recipe for success that they need to do for this to be a good Spider-Man TV show?
I mean, these are like big questions. I think that
cure for cancer and solve for world hunger after that, if you don't mind as well.
Right, exactly. Other than like, I don't know, somebody seeing an episode of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man and then going and Don Drapering it, making us all happy. I don't know what else could happen. I hope that people give this whole business a chance, because there've been such weird moments in the fandom the last 12 to heck, I'll say maybe even stretch it back 3-4 years now, where if it's not exactly what people ask for, they have supreme skepticism, like hilarious skepticism. You announce a Spider-Man cartoon and everybody goes, well, no one cares about like this new version of Peter you're making. Why don't you just continue the ones we already do? And they're probably going to do that. Like after X-Men 97, nothing's over anymore, guys. I don't think. Like, I sincerely think there have been like conversations about your boy TJ, about Spider-Man 90s getting some sort of revisitation here because the internet was so loud about it.
X-Men 97 goes in there and says, hey, he found MJ. They're back together. I still need to know why.
Because Madam
Oh.
Web, baby.
Where'd he find her?
That was gonna be answered in Madam Web 2, but no one wanted that. Sorry, TJ.
Come on back.
Literally, that would have been, if they made that the story for Madam Web, that would have been $1 billion movie.
Sure.
Thanks, Sony.
Sure.
Thanks. I started. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. So that's the first thing. I am excited to see. Jeff has put a big Jeff Trammell, head writer, the showrunner, has put a big focus on his love for all the different weird versions of Spider-Man, like all of them. Like the only time I've ever heard anybody mention like animated series, like the 2000 one, and the live action ones, and Spider-Verse, and the comics all together. So I think it's really gonna throw people for some curveballs, and what the stuff he'll include is like Damon just pointed out Hawkeye in the middle of that thing, and I was in a room where that big image was on the wall, and I was trying to absorb everything else, and I missed that. So there's obviously some things that are going to happen here that are just bonkers. I'm really excited for people to see that too. What was the last part of the question? Because it was a long question. I was like, dang.
Do you have any worries? Like any worries with this of like, I have seen this part and I don't like how it looks, anything like that?
Release schedule maybe, because apparently it's going different now. Like it's 2-3-3. Yeah. Like we're doing weird, bizarre world NBA finals planning, and I don't like that at all.
They straight up said, look, this is the appetizer. The main event is Daredevil Born Again, so we want to make sure you're ready for it and all done this. Like that's my read on how they decided to market that.
Yeah, and that's kind of a little bit of a concern, because if you follow any of the discourse around this stuff, which I mean, good on you if you avoid discourse. Also, what are you doing listening to us? But please stay. There's a level of the skeleton crew problem where if it doesn't get off to a strong start, you got to kind of build the audience over time. So I hope we get a lot of viewership in the early going so that it can compound, because Brad Winderbaum has said to us over at Face Hero, he's like, oh, it's gonna break your hearts by the end. Like it gets real quick. And I was like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? What do you know, Brad? What do you know? Tell us. What is this? Right. He just kept saying, he's like, oh, you'll see. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Brad's the king of two things. He's the king of that, of like, we'll see what happens. But also he'll be like, you know, if I had my druthers, I would really love to see this. And it's like, Brad, you're the guy that green lights this shit, man. Like,
that's be the most stressful thing ever, talking to that guy.
Man, he said, and I dropped it. He was just like, like, what episode was it of Agatha? The one where Billie Eilish dropped? Is that
See Me in a Crowd?
Yeah, five. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was like, oh no, you're not. We're not done. It's not over. It's gonna hurt you even more. And I was like, what are you talking about? You can't possibly. Everybody's dead. How could it possibly get any worse, Brad? And then you see the episode with with Patty. In episode 7, I'm like, oh, it can't get worse. Great, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Great. So now
that could be their marketing strategy. Just throw Brad in a room and be like, "This is what we got coming, guys. Strap in."
Right.
He's like Tom Holland and Mark Ruffalo if they didn't spoil anything.
Could you imagine if Tom was in this thing for like even 2 seconds? How insane everybody would go. It would be so funny. It'd be so great.
Going into a multiversal saga, they got to start doing this at some point, guys, right? Like
this version of Peter is in the Avengers e-ticket they're building in California Adventure right now.
Yes, in the original concepts of it. I don't know if that's going to make it over, but that's one of the reasons why I told people to really watch What If, because I have a feeling a lot of the What If stuff will make its way over to Secret Wars by the end, whether it be animated form or not. I guarantee you we'll see like a big horde of zombies take someone out, and it'll be from the Marvel Zombie show, right? Like stuff like that. I would not be surprised if the Spider-Man for like 4 seconds makes an appearance.
It'd be hilarious if there's just like an animated Peggy Carter hanging out with like a bunch of secret, like live action Secret Wars characters in the movie theater, and there's just like a little animated Peggy hanging out with the group.
Right.
Hey, Spider-Verse just did it, vice versa.
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I think it
Donald
will work
Glover
better
sitting
vice
there
versa
and
than the other way around. But I guess that's basically what things like a Sonic the Hedgehog and movies like that are, is the combination of the two.
The absolute shock in the press screening when they panned over and it was Donald sitting there, I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Actually, you know what? I want to retract my answer. That's who I want. That's my dream character. I want Donald Glover back as the Prowler. That's what I want in this.
Okay.
I'll throw it to you next then, Klein, for this one. What are the necessities for success for this film? What does it need to do to be a good Spider-Man show? And then what are your worries after everything you've seen and heard so far?
I'll start with a negative. I think that the thing I'm most worried about is the animation style. I'm not a huge fan of the way that it looks. I also wasn't a huge fan of the way that What If looks, and What If by the end really impressed me. So once I get in there, once I've like acclimatized to it a little bit, I think it will be okay. I'm also a little worried that, as I said, like it feels like they're juggling a lot of balls. This felt like a very simple pitch when they first showed off those concept pieces with all the villains and it's freshman year and all that. And then since that creative revamp, I'm worried that they're going to try to do a lot of stuff. What I think it needs to do to succeed, I think it just tell a fun high school Spider-Man story, because I will eat those up until the end of the time, and give me a banger, kick-ass theme song, because all the best Spider-Man TV shows have the best theme songs. And so give me a good one. Give me Marvel Studios. Work your magic. Let's see what we can do.
Rich,
maybe that's where Donald Glover comes in. Maybe he, as Childish Gambino, does the theme song.
And then every episode concludes with him as Troy, with Abed doing a little Troy and Abed in the morning little segment. Rich, what does Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man need to do to be a successful Spider-Man series? And what are you worried about going in?
I mean, I think kind of along the same lines as Klein. For the good, it just has to be a good Spider-Man project. Like, forget all the extra stuff. Forget the Tombstones of the world, the Nico Minorus of the world. As great as all that stuff is going to be, just stick to the basics of what everybody knows about Spider-Man. I think the MCU has done that really well for the most part. In terms of Tom Holland's, what they've done with him as Spider-Man, I think they've done a really good job of bringing everything that people love about him from the comics. And I think now they have a chance to really do that now that you have animation, which you can do so much more in, like, visually and story-wise than you can do in live action. But that's the thing, is that they can't, like, take advantage, like, completely insane with all the crazy extra stuff. Just make sure Peter Parker is done right. Make sure he's the character that everybody knows and loves, you know, and of course Hudson Thames has done a really good job with the voiceover stuff. I've really liked what he's done in What If. It's almost like a Tom Holland variant, really. Like if you put Tom Holland's Peter Parker and Hudson Thames' Peter Parker next to each other, you could probably barely tell that they're different. And of course there are some worries. Like, this thing has been in development for a really long time. Like, it's been Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been like a good 2-3 years since this thing was first announced. Maybe even 4, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
was it Investor Day?
It might have been Investor Day.
It was Disney Plus Day, if you all remember what the heck that was.
Yeah.
I think it was Disney Plus. I think you're right, Damon.
It was.
Yeah. So this thing has been in development for a really long time. It's been through so many changes. Like, the reports of, like, it's almost like Spider-Verse 3 levels of, like, changes that we've heard about behind the scenes, like all the drama and the craziness that's happened behind the scenes and everything. So that definitely has me a little bit worried. But from what we've seen from the footage so far, I'm feeling optimistic. I think Marvel Studios has gotten it right, and especially too because the last couple of years, like, Marvel Studios has done this whole, like, reset on, you know, making sure that the quality is there for everything. Like, last year was a really good year, I think, for Marvel Studios, between Echo, Deadpool and Wolverine, Agatha, and What If. If they could just keep that going into Spider-Man, I think we'll be okay.
Damon, same to you.
My biggest hope for this is that I will repeat pretty much what Rich said, is that it's a good Spider-Man project, right? I think that's my biggest hope. But my fears, right? Here's my fears. I fear that people will immediately compare this to X-Men 97. And I fear the comparison is unfair because this is very clearly intended for two different audiences. Let's go back to the marketing on X-Men 97. That was very clearly intended for millennials, people who grew up in the 90s, people who wanted to continue with that show, right? And not so much an older crowd, but not like your 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old group,
Us,
right?
this crowd.
It's right. It is intended for people in 18 to 35, right? Like pretty large range, but it's intended for that. And it was written like that. This to me, from all that I've seen, and they have not done a whole lot of marketing for it. We just got our first trailer for it, a couple weeks ago. They haven't done a lot of marketing for this at all. My biggest fear is that this is very clearly going to be a family show, a show geared towards the 10, 11, 12-year-olds, but people go in with X-Men 97 expectations. That's my fear for this.
I want to push back a little bit on the good Spider-Man project thing. What makes a good Spider-Man project? Like, if we know we want to prioritize the things that make him one of the most beloved characters of all time. We want that to be the focus as opposed to MCU cameos and all these different things that we had just previously been talking about. But what are, to you, Damon, and anybody else, feel free to chime in here as well, the key crucial elements that make a Spider-Man project a good Spider-Man project?
I think this goes a lot back. At me right now, I'm a comics fan. You know which comic I'm reading for Spider-Man? It's not the Amazing Spider-Man. It's not the Spectacular Spider-Man. It's Ultimate Spider-Man. It's the only Spider-Man book on the shelves that I think is actually just worth a damn. And it's not because, they're doing what the audience wants. We finally have a grown-up Peter Parker with a family and kids and blah, blah, blah. But that's also a little bit for this show. And what I'm trying to get to is we can do anything we want in this brand new universe. We don't have to rely on pre-existing canon, right? We can tell the story that fits this Peter, but Peter as a whole is one of the most relatable characters in Marvel Comics. People didn't relate to Spider-Man. They related to Peter Parker, who was a high schooler, who had problems, whether it was his friends, his girlfriends, his getting his homework on time, money. That's what makes Peter Parker relatable. In the Ultimate Universe right now, the people who are reading that, what's relatable with him? He's a dad trying to struggle between his Spider-Man life, his job, and his family. People who are reading that relate to that, whether it's family, whether you have kids or just a wife or a partner, whatever. It's the relatability of Spider-Man that makes a good Spider-Man project.
I'll piggyback on that and go the relatability, and the relatability combined with aspiring to be the person we want to be, because that's why he always has those problems, right? Is because no matter how much he loves his friends, his family, how much he loves science, how much he loves different activities, nothing is as important as protecting people. In particular, protecting the people closest to him, but all people. And I was thinking about what the difference between a vigilante and a hero is, as I'm in the midst of my Daredevil rewatch, and it's the trial of Frank Castle in season 2 right now. And to me, a vigilante is someone who goes out there for the purpose of stopping bad people. A vigilante is someone who goes out into the streets. They're stopping criminals. They're stopping crime, whether it is lethally putting people down or even in a way like Daredevil, that is, vigilante. To me, Spider-Man is not a vigilante. He is a hero because his priority is not stopping people. It's protecting people. It is always saving the life of someone, as we see, in the new Superman trailer. That's a quality that he has too. And that's why I think two of the things that make Superman and Spider-Man two of the most pure beloved superhero characters. At the end of the day, saving the cat from the tree, saving the little girl from the car coming in. That is the priority. That is what's most important. Not bringing the bad guys down, but saving the people that the bad guys are hurting. And I think that is, to me, the most important. MTF says it's the difference between firefighters and cops. I agree. Yeah, like that's a really good comparison as well. Any other final thoughts on this topic before we wrap things up?
I gotta say one, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But could you imagine, TJ, that this is the project that ends on a giant incursion in the end of the multiverse? It's
everything coming in the MCU?
Of everything coming out right now. Could you imagine? Because I can't. I don't think it's happening.
If I can just piggyback actually off both of you, TJ and Damon, I love both of your points, and I'm just gonna like add to it. I want to see like just Spider-Man. This is a character who doesn't always necessarily make the right decision, especially in a show like this. I think because this is his origin story, because he is so young, he's so early in his career as a superhero. He has these superpowers, but he's just learning about the responsibility that comes with it and learning like how to make the right decision. Because like you were saying, Damon, he's not always going to be able to make the right choice, and he's not always going to be able to succeed in everything. Like, I'm sure this series, even though it's geared towards kids, it's going to have a moment where he isn't able to save someone, or maybe like he doesn't, follow through on something that he really, really wants to do. And the intention's always there. Like, he's a good kid at heart, but there are going to be moments where like you look at the adult superheroes in this world, a lot of times we show them as like these people who are almost infallible, and like they could do no wrong, and even when it goes wrong, it goes right for them. Spider-Man, it doesn't always work like that, especially like what we've seen in the MCU. We're at a point in the MCU right now where this is a kid who the world doesn't even know he exists. So it's about as bad as things can possibly be. But I'm not saying this show needs to get things that bad. Please don't. Yeah, please don't. Peter Parker, Aaron said that Peter needs some freaking friends. Like, please let him have something good in his life.
Alicia,
Marvel editorial, don't touch MCU Peter Parker, please. He's already had enough.
But no, just the idea of him not being able to like easily figure things out on a whim. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing.
If he loses any girlfriend to a man named Paul, I'm turning off my television.
All hell's breaking loose.
I'm traumatized.
There have been so many things I wanted to bring up about the show as we were going, but I've bitten my tongue. I got a little sore on the edge of it from the amount of times I've bitten. But Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man starts coming out in a week on Disney+. We're going to be live every day for the rest of this week, breaking something down. Today, we have, of course, our Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man primer. Tomorrow, we're going to do the exact same thing, but for Daredevil Born Again. We're going to break down the trailer, and we are going to talk about who these characters are: Muse, White Tiger, all these different people that appear in the trailer. We're going to tell you who they are, so going into the series, what do you have to have watched? 3 seasons of Daredevil, a bunch of Defenderverse stuff. We'll let you know. And then, of course, we got the Comic Corner coming on Thursday. We have our Severance podcast coming Friday, breaking down season 2, episode 2. We have a very special guest for that one. We have Aaron's co-host over at Phase Hero, Jamie Jurack, coming to talk Severance episode 2 with us. And then for episode 3, the following Friday, we will have Screen Rant's Liam Crowley coming to talk some Severance as well. So we got a great crew of guests coming for that one. Make sure you check it out. Hit the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know every single time we go live. Damon's over at Comic Corner. You don't got to follow him on socials because he's deleting all of them. He's hiding. You can't find him anywhere other than
baby
here on the show. Klein, where can the people find you on socials? Where can they find your vast variety of podcasts and your writing over at The Direct?
You can keep up with me everywhere. I'm at the Kleinfeld, Blue Sky, Instagram. I am still on Twitter, but it's slowly going away. We are sending it out to sea. Other than that, you can listen to me each and every week on my Star Wars podcast, Reckless Rebellion, as well as my video game podcast, Controller Club podcast services around the globe, as well as YouTube, and writing along with Richard Nebens here over at The Direct each and every day.
Rich, where can the people find you?
right there where it says at Richard Nebens on all socials. Like you guys said, Twitter's kind of, becoming a hellscape. So I'm on there less and less, but I'm on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, everything, everywhere you want to look. Yeah, you can find me writing like crazy at the Direct all the time. I don't have a podcast myself, but I am a pretty regular guest on the Direct podcast. And of course, here at Agents of Fandom. I will warn everybody, though, that like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a couple weeks here where you're not going to hear much from me because I'm going to be on a boat for about over a week on a couple of cruises. And one of them is San Diego Comic-Con, the cruise, though. So that's going to be amazing. It's going to be my first vacation in a good decade. So that's at the beginning of February. But once that's over, I'll be back to being my usual machine self. And shout out you guys. Shout out Aaron's and shout out Phase Hero. And yeah, you can find me over the Direct and Agents of Fandom.
Shout out to all of you for joining on such a last-minute basis and for clutching up and coming through and making this a really awesome, really fun show. Damon has tech issues and he figures it all out to be here. I message all three of you at the last minute, like, here's a link. I don't have time to respond. Join if you can. And all of you popped on, and it was just clutch because we turned in from something I was worried about having to hang out by myself to a genuine, awesome show with 5 beautifully amazing people. Well, 4 beautifully amazing people and myself.
5.
Aaron, where can the people find you? Where can the people find Phase Hero?
Oh boy, Phase Hero Pod on Instagram, Phase Hero on all your podcast platforms. We got a ton of stuff to talk about. I got to go find out whatever the heck Klein just mentioned about Black Cat. I've been searching while we've been on. I cannot figure out what he's talking about. Cannot wait to find it. As for me by myself, it's at Summit Lake Hornet, as the poet laureate Michelle Branch used to say, everywhere, just all over the places, all over, everywhere. And go follow Jenna and go read some comics, go learn some stuff. I learn stuff from her channel every day. BD's always moving. Right now, he's recovering after a crushing loss in one of his wrestling matches, but he'll be game for tomorrow for Phase Hero. And Jamie, just waiting on a doc, waiting for S.H.I.E.L.D. to come back, and then talking to TJ about Severance. Those are her activities, and that's love the time of Hydra for her. So, yep. Brandon, why haven't you thought about Michelle Branch in a long time?
I'm always thinking about Michelle Branch. I'm glad you brought that one.
I'm always thinking about Michelle Branch.
You're not thinking about it?
Always thinking about these wonderful people here on the podcast, our wonderful viewers, because you're everywhere to me. When I close my eyes, it's you I see. You're everything I know. That makes me believe I'm not alone.
Do not get the contemporary music school graduate going on Michelle Branch.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you next time. Peace out.